Well, hello and welcome to this edition of Wednesday Palaver. Last week, for some reason, we were unable to bring you Wednesday Palaver. But the program this week will more than compensate for what we missed last week. Wednesday Palaver is coming to you live from the studios of Pan-African Television. We are coming to you on our Facebook page, and we are coming to you from other Facebook pages which would be announced, as we go along. This is meant to be an interactive program, and we very much appreciate if you send us your messages, your views on what we are discussing here on WhatsApp, and the number will be displayed on the screen. You can also join us in this discussion on Facebook, and today we are looking at what has come to be known as the Agyapa deal. Agyapa deal. What is the Agyapa deal? Some say there's nothing wrong with it. It is meant to consolidate Ghana's revenue from our gold exploitation and so on, and meant to generate reasonable resources for infrastructural development. There are many others, including civil society organizations, who say that this whole deal is so opaque, it's unbelievable. There are some who have gone to the extent of suggesting that you could actually find elements of fraud in this Agyapa deal. To unravel all of this and to enable us to come to some very reasonable understanding of the issues involved in Agyapa, we are bringing somebody to the studio who is no stranger at all to Wednesday Palaver. He has been here before, and his performance was really, really, really outstanding. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Mensah Thompson from ASEPA, who is going to be our lead discussion. We are not departing from the usual format. He will have up to 20, perhaps 25 minutes to give us a presentation, and then thereafter, those of you who are following us on Facebook, those of you who are sending us messages on WhatsApp and so on, we shall read your messages. And then the studio audience will have its bite. And then we shall invite Mr. Mensah Thompson to come back to the studio and give us his concluding remarks. It is my pleasure once more to invite Mr. Mensah Thompson of ASEPA to the microphone.
Forgive me, I have the presidential height. Thank you once again, Uncle Kosi, for bringing me back to this amazing, insightful program. And I'm very delighted to be sharing with you the story of Agyapa. It's a very intriguing story, and I think it is one that will blow your mind. But before we come to the issue of Agyapa, I would like to draw your attention to something which I believe is what has resulted in this transaction which we have today called Agyapa. Now, the current government, or the current crop of people who came to government, seem to have come into government with a totally different mentality. And it is not one of governance, but it is one to put some family clannish agenda. And everything that they have done from the day they took over the realms of this country, or they took over the powers of this country, has geared towards achieving that family clannish agenda which they some way somehow had prepared for before they even came to power. Now, and I'll lead you to a couple of things that has happened that feed into this particular narrative that, look, the country seemed to be under siege, the Akufo-Addo government and the people associated with it came to power and immediately identified certain key assets of the state which they targeted to acquire for themselves and for their family. They targeted certain state assets, and these are huge assets that benefited all of us. But I believe the Akufo-Addo government and its people did not understand why it should benefit all of us, so they should get it for a few of them, their family and their people. One of them is the Franklin Templeton bond, and that was the first thing that happened, where the Minister of Finance, through a third party, acquired a significant shares. So they carried 2.5 billion bond and gave it to one person through a third party, which had increased the risk of this country, because we don't know what is going to happen if today Franklin Templeton decide to move away his 2.5 billion asset from our economy. Our economy will almost virtually collapse. Then from the bond deal came the PDS saga, where an arrangement that had begun under the previous administration between the US government and then the Millennium Development Corporation to restructure our energy sector and to involve private participation. The whole arrangement was restructured with a view that 51% of ownership of our power distribution company was going to be given to Ghanaians. Eventually, we all saw who those shares went to and the people who were associated with it. So they acquired it for themselves, the 51%, shared among people close to President Akufo-Addo and his family. So they acquired our bond and also the financial sector. So the bond issue also in the financial sector. Today, if you go to the financial sector, the bank or the company of the finance minister called Data Bank is in charge of ensuring all state facilities and state corporations across the country. So again, acquiring the financial sector for themselves. Then our airport, and a lot of people are not aware that within the week where the issue of Papano became so profound in our country and we're all busy doing Papano, President Akufo-Addo and his family were busy selling our airport, and today our airport is in the hands of a Turkish company sold to them. And in one of the most opaque transactions, which is even bigger than the Agyapa, but I know that one day we shall revisit that issue. With the mentality to rule this country, to develop this country, to share the national cake for the benefit of everybody, but for themselves and their family only. And so, for some of us, Agyapa didn't come to us as a surprise. If they have sold our airport, they've sold our port to Unipass in another shady transaction, which is creating a total mess at our port. They've sold it to themselves. They've acquired our entire financial sector for themselves, collapsed people's banks and strengthened theirs, collapsed people's media houses and strengthened theirs. Why should I be surprised when a group of people who conspire to sell our biggest asset, ECG, to themselves, come back with this transaction? And so the issue of Agyapa to some of us did not come as a surprise, but again it came with some insight into the thinking of these people. And excuse my language, the level of impunity going on in the country with the transactions such as Agyapa, it is either the people who are behind this transaction are crazy, or they believe that the country or the state will never hold them accountable for their crimes. It's two things. It's either they are crazy, or they have an utmost belief that the state will never hold them responsible for their crimes against the state. Otherwise, no person in his right mind would go and negotiate this transaction for the people of Ghana. And I've asked these questions countless times that, look, if the royalties of this country was the private property of these people, would they ever conceive such an idea? That you have an asset that gives you at least $200 million every year, subject to gold prices. So if you look at the data I have here, in 2016, Ghana had 550 million Ghana cedis from gold royalties alone, which was paid to the Kufuor government in 2017. In 2017, we had 702 million Ghana cedis, which was paid to the Kufuor government in 2018. In 2018, we had 705, which was paid in 2019. And this year, the 2019 royalties, which was in excess of 1 billion Ghana cedis, have been paid to the Kufuor government. And so if you have these monies coming to you every year, why would you want to go and negotiate for a paltry $500 million for 15 good years, when within 4 years you've gotten at least $520 million within 4 years? From 2016 to 2020, the Kufuor government has received $520 million in gold royalties. And so if this asset belongs to you, would you go and take somebody's 500 million and say that I'll give you this asset for 15 years? That is a question they must come out and answer. But you see, fundamentally, there is absolutely nothing wrong with monetizing our gold royalties. And there are several countries who have done it. And if you look at the Franco-Nevada case study in Canada, where the mineral royalties of the people of Canada has been consolidated into a fund floated on the Toronto Stock Exchange and raising billions of dollars for the government for development. We have the Oregon Minerals, which has also consolidated PNG's mining interest and oil in our mineral, their royalties from these two commodities, monetize it and raising huge sums of money for the people of Portland. And so fundamentally, if you look at several case studies and countries that has used this or monetized their gold royalties, there's no problem if a government decides that, look, what we earn from our mineral royalties, we can leverage on it to raise huge sums of money for development. That is in itself is not bad. Now, what has become a problem today is the mindset of the people who are doing this transaction. Because their mindset is not to harness or monetize our resources for the benefit or for the larger benefit of the public, they negotiated the transaction in such a way that it will benefit a few family and friends. And so you have a company that has been incorporated to manage the sovereign resources of this country, and the name of the company is Agyapa. How does that even sound in your ears? That resources that belongs to the good people of this country, you are setting up a company to manage that resource, and you say the name of the company is Agyapa. Then you are saying again that this company which you've set up to manage our gold royalties, our sovereign resources that belongs to the general people of this country, is registered outside the country, specifically in a tax haven. But the fundamental question we are asking is, why would government or a group of people in government even sit down and conceive the idea of registering an offshore company to monetize our gold royalties, our sovereign resources? Because at least we know that offshore companies and tax havens are for two things: to hide resources. And so politicians in Africa, when they steal their money, they hide them in tax havens. Weapons smugglers hide their resources in tax havens. drug peddlers, because they cannot account for the money, or they cannot tell us the source of the money, they hide them in tax havens where there is little information and there is more secrecy, and nobody is going to ask you how you made your money. And why would you incorporate a company in a tax haven to come and manage the sovereign resources of the people of this country? What the hell is wrong with you? So today, it is no surprise that the European Union has ranked Ghana as a high-risk third country. And I know those of you who are bankers, you've received this information from your banks that look, you need to, come and update your KYC information with the banks, because now Ghana is a high-risk third country. Now there are two things, there are two bases why any country will be ranked as a high-risk third country. The first one is money laundering. And so if you have a country where an offshore company has been set up, and our government has this strong affinity in dealing in tax havens, and go and incorporate a company there to manage your sovereign resources, why are you surprised that today the European Union says Ghana, we are highest third country? And today, because of the sense of a few family and friends who are benefiting immensely from this country, all of us are going to be at risk. Today, it will be very, 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 it will be a very Herculean task, if not stressful, to travel on the Ghanaian passport. If you're a businessman who have huge international businesses dealing with huge sums of money, the moment you are traveling on a Ghanaian passport, you are put on international radar, anti-money laundering radar. Because of what? Ghana, until recently, was known for one thing: for the peace and stability in the sub-region. And that is why we were called the gateway to Africa. Apart from that, we were known for our gold and our cocoa. Today, because of the reckless behavior of a few people in government, today it is no fun to travel on the Ghanaian passport anymore. And so let nobody take what is happening as a joke and behave like the ostrich, the proverbial ostrich, that look, if these people want to steal our resources, they should steal it. Yes, of course. But the general effect of their action on the system can never be underestimated. It can never be underestimated. Now, we've done a number of engagements with government. Recently, you heard the ministry invite us for an interaction. They said they want to do consultation. And we went there as CSOs with just one request: that you cannot do consultation in the middle of implementation. You cannot. You don't start your implementation when you hit a rock, you say, I'm coming to do consultation. No. The resources you are managing does not belong to you. It belongs to the people of Ghana. And so you should have consulted extensively before you even attempted to monetize our gold royalties. You left the chiefs out. You left the district assemblies out. You left the local people out. Go to the mining areas and look at the adverse effect of mining on the quality of lives of the people in the mining areas. Go to the cocoa growing areas. Cocoa trees are being cut down on a daily basis because of mining. People are losing their livelihood daily. And so if you're a government and you want to take action that will affect the lives of these people, you say you did not consult them. And today, you have the effrontery to call civil society organizations in the middle of a transaction which you have already approved, that you are coming to do consultation. So we told the ministry that, look, we are ready to consult with you only if the deal is suspended. Let's go back to square one and let's start. Let's see how we can all input, share ideas, so that we can all see how best we can harness the resource potential of this country for the benefit of all of us, not for your family and friends. And that has not been done. The ministry still insists that they are going to go ahead with this transaction. And so for me, I am not surprised, because this group of people are determined. They are determined to hijack the sovereign resources of this country, or the huge assets of this country that bring in huge revenues. For what reason, I don't know. For what reason, I don't know. Maybe they feel this country belongs to them. And so what they are doing, they don't see it as stealing. They think that they are taking what rightly belongs to them. But we shall constantly remind them that this country does not belong to them. This country does not belong to the Kufuor family. There are more people, more families who have toiled, who have sacrificed for this country to get to the level it is today. And so the country does not belong to the Kufuor family. It belongs to all of us. We all have a right and say in whatever happens to our country. When God put gold in the land of Ghana, he did not say that it should go to a few people. So why are we having this conversation today? That some group of people can come together and decide that they are going to keep our mineral royalties for themselves and their families for the next 15 years and even in perpetuity. And they go and sit down and they make arrangements that our gold royalties, what belongs to the good people of this country, even our courts of competent jurisdiction cannot make pronouncement on our royalties. Our court cannot make pronouncement on our royalties. And of course, if the arrangement you've done is good, if you believe it is in the best interest of this country, why would you put this arrangement, this clause in the arrangement? Excuse me. Then you come back and say, even successive governments cannot decide to change or make any input or change the fund manager which you've put there to manage our royalties. And so, for eternity, the mineral resource of this country is going to be in the hands of a few family and friends. And such impunity, and we are quiet, and we are watching this group of people run this country down the drain, and we can't say anything. I believe the people of this country are everything but coward people. And I think it's high time we all rise up and start telling these criminals to their faces that, look, enough is enough. Enough is enough. We won't continue to glorify your TV anymore. And you see, the other effect is that they are creating a lot of challenges in our system, systemic challenges. Because if you live in a country where there is no equity, where only one small group of people is in charge of everything, they've taken over everything. They've taken over our airport, they've sold our ports to themselves, they've taken over the financial sector, they've collapsed our media houses, they've taken over the energy sector. Now our go-to, they want to take it. So if you live in a system where only a few people are enjoying and the rest of the country is hungry, what you are creating is a political instability in waiting. This is a huge time bomb, and it's a threat to the safety of this country. Because with what they are doing, they are creating a lot of hungry, angry young people in the system. And if we don't take care, one day the young people of this country cannot contain what is being done to them anymore. Young people today complete schools and they become restless. They can't even fend for themselves. What are they asking for? They're not asking for freebies. They're saying, give us a job, let us work, let's earn a living for ourselves. Within 4 years, you have not been able to create a single sustainable job for the young people of this country. But you have the sense to go to Jersey, incorporate an offshore company to come and steal our mineral royalties away. And you call yourself a government? This is not a government. This is not a government. This is a criminal gang. This cannot be a government. Because we say government. What is government? For the people, by the people. Doing things that benefit the people. Not to take advantage of the resources of the people, enrich yourselves whilst the people go hungry. That is not a government, that is a criminal gang. Because today, if a thief enters your house and with a gun, they point a gun at you and they take all your belongings away, who are they? Are they not criminals? So today, if people have come and through the powers we've given them, through our votes and our constitution, which they are using as a weapon, pointing it on us and stealing our resources away, are they not criminals? So we have a huge responsibility this year. That look, we cannot continue with this impunity anymore. We are putting not just our lives, but the lives of our future children at stake. The quality of life of our children, the quality of life that could have been bettered by these resources, the quality of life, the quality of education that could have been bettered, the quality of health that could have been bettered, the quality of jobs and employment that could have been bettered by these resources are all falling short. And so the rippling effect is that in 10 years' time, we're going to have a huge chunk of unemployed, hungry, destitute young people. Is that the country we say we are living for our future generation? And so we have called for the suspension of this Agyapa deal. This Agyapa deal is criminal. There is nothing beneficial about this arrangement. Absolutely nothing. We've sat down, we've reviewed the entire arrangement, and we did not see a single arrangement in the Agyapa deal that will benefit you and I. Even the selection of somebody to manage the company they said they've set up to manage our sovereign resources was just nepotistic. It's the most nepotistic thing I've heard in my life. That the senior minister's son, who is already occupying a state position, he's been handed another job to manage our royalties. They are not even taking the old job away from him, so to create a space to employ you. He's just been handed our mineral royalties in addition to his job, and they say he's competent, he's qualified. And that's the explanation they've given us. So we are all dumped here. In fact, none of us can manage the resources. It's only the Kufuor family and the people associated with it that have the wisdom in fund management. And so it is important that we look at this deal once again. We are not going to condone this criminality, and we have we've been doing a number of engagements with the chiefs, with the traditional authorities, the community leaders in the mining areas, and subsequently a number of activities are going to come up. We are not going to stop speaking about this because some of us cannot sleep. We cannot watch on whilst a group of people come together, hijack our mineral resources, not just our mineral resources, all the big things in this country, the huge assets of this country, put it under their control whilst we all go hungry. We are not going to entertain that, and we've called for the immediate suspension of this Agyapa deal. Thank you.
Well, that was Mr. Mensah Thompson, who is from ASEPA, and he was leading us in a discussion on the Agyapa deal. The messages have started pouring in, so I'll just read a few, and then we'll come to the studio audience. This message is not signed. It's a WhatsApp message, and it simply says, "Comrade, why are serious demonstrations not happening across the country over this fraud?" And it uses a term that I will not repeat, something about Achim, a rather misleading descent into demonstrations. I don't want to go that way. Our Facebook page, there is Florence Amma, who simply says, "Welcome, oh, welcome, oh." Richard Jason Sam says, "More vim." Mustafa Samino says, "I call on all well-meaning Ghanaians, especially our traditional leaders, not to honor any engagement or invitation by this government until the Agyapa Royalties Deal is suspended." Florence Amma says, "Can't we fight against the selling back of our airport and to negotiate again?" Then there is 20 Amos, simply says, "The truth hard." There is Abigail Tego, and Abigail Tego says, "The national cake must be shared fairly." Danny Exodus says, "So what can be done about these fraudulent deals under this government? Isn't there any alternative to solve this matter? What about checks and balances?" Abigail Tego again writes, "Add the takeover of lands and security services as well." Frank Kofi says, "NPP government is," very strong words, very, very strong words. I would not repeat them. But Frank Kofi's words are very strong in describing the NPP government. Then there's Florence Amma. It says, your airport, can we review the contract again? Please, my heart is bleeding. That is the gateway to our heart. That is the gateway to our heart." And that is from Florence Amma. Emmanuel Fianco says, "If the deal is not good for Ghana, please let," and then the message cuts. Please let what? Please let no message cuts. Then Frank Kofi says, "Don't forget PDS. Don't forget PDS." So far, these are the messages. These are the messages so far. There are a couple of messages. But at this stage, we'd like to bring in the studio audience. We have about 23 minutes to go. And I'd like to see those of you in the studio who have issues to raise or questions to ask. Just simply raise your hand. Studio audience, I see 1 anymore. I see 2, I see 3, I see 4, I see 5, and I see 6. Is that all? So shall we do it in this order? We will have Baden, we will have Hack, we will have you, we will have you, we will have you, and then we will have Comrade Mensah to round up. So 6 of you.
Thank you, Comrade. Good evening to you and good evening to our cherished viewers. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. The truth of the matter is that if you look at the chronology of events that has been summed up today or this evening in this auditorium, it only suggests that we are faced with a fascist government. a government that is focused on building a certain hegemony to be able to control the affairs of the state, using the constitution, just as Mr. Thompson said, and using our own rules and the power that we have vetoed onto them. But it will not end well for all of us, especially those of us who, because of politics, have decided to support this deal. Look, the money they are stealing from us, none of it is coming into your pocket. It is not even about this generation. What about the